You went really deep in the books.
Well, bring it. I'm good. I'm ready for you.
All right, let's go.
You go deep. I'll go deeper.
Oh, I like that. I like that. All right. So, everyone, welcome to Black Girl Tired Book Talk. I'm your host, Storm. Today's guest is a powerhouse of storytelling across multiple mediums. Eriq La Salle is an African American actor, producer, director, and award winning author whose impact spans television, film, theater, literature. Many know him for his award winning portrayal of the commanding and unforgettable Dr. Peter Benson on the critically acclaimed history making medical drama ER. Educated at Juilliard and NYU's Test School of Arts, he has built a career rooted in performance excellence, with credits ranging from Broadway to major film roles alongside Eddie Murphy in Coming to America, Robin Williams in 1 Hour Photo, and Hugh Jackman in Logan. Beyond acting, Eriq has maintained a prolific career behind the camera as a director, executive producer, working with major networks, including but not limited to HBO, Showtime, NBC, Fox, and CBS. He has spent 4 years as an executive producer and director on Chicago PD, while also directing episodes of Law and Order and Law and Order Organized Crime. As a writer, he is the author of several critically acclaimed psychological thrillers, the Martyr Maker series, say that 5 times, including Laws of Depravity, Laws of Wrath, Laws of Annihilation, which is my freaking favorite, with his upcoming release, Laws of Solomon, continuing the series. He continues to expand storytelling through psychological, rich, socially layered narratives that challenge readers and viewers alike. Eriq, welcome to Black Girl Tired Book Talk. I am honored to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here and an honor to be here. So thanks a lot.
All right, let's get into these questions.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay, you've moved through storytelling as an actor, as a director, producer, and now novelist. At what point did storytelling stop being a career path and start feeling like a responsibility?
I don't know. I mean, when you say responsibility to whom?
To tell your story,
Okay.
the way
Well,
you want it.
I think it started there, and I think it's always been there. I think it's just the opposite. I think
Mm,
I've always looked at it even before I had, and I want this is important. Even before I had the words that you just said, even before I knew it was a responsibility.
mm-hmm,
Like I never, when I got into acting, it wasn't for money. It wasn't for the fame. It wasn't for the things that a lot of people get into it. I got into it because I love being a storyteller.
mm,
Oh, and I ironically, when I was young, I used to write poetry and short stories, and I'd write poems for my boys when they were, going through stuff with their girlfriends, and write a little love poem to get them back in. So it was, but the sense of storytelling. Now I started writing short stories. So the sense of storytelling was always that I felt like I had something to say. Well,
mm,
again, before I knew, I think a lot of times people want to front and oh they know. So I didn't know. I'm from Hartford, Connecticut. That
mm,
was a an environment that didn't necessarily historically lend itself to someone looking like us
mm,
being in the arts. We didn't have that
mm,
frame of particularly when I grew up.
mm,
But I just all I knew was I had to be creative.
mm,
So that quote unquote responsibility was to myself, to responsibility to satisfy that dream, to satisfy that burning passion, to satisfy. That's where the responsibility
mm,
started, and fortunately, I gotta say, I always joke that I'm still in love with the same girl, the girl being art. You know what I
mm,
mean? Like
mm,
so from 8, 14 till now, I'm
yeah.
still in love. Now I've learned different aspects of art, and I've
Mhm.
expressed myself, different ways there. But so I don't know. I guess I look at it as I think it was always a responsibility more so than a career choice. The career just followed. If I love doing this, oh, I can make a great living. I can travel. I can see the world. I can meet
Yeah,
great people. But the most important thing was I can do what I love doing. That's so. However that comes, hits you. So
I
that's
love
all.
that.
Yeah.
I love that. So, as a Black man who has existed in Hollywood, network television, and now publishing, how has your understanding of power and visibility changed across those industries?
Well, look, I think this. We need to be seen, and there's
Mhm.
nothing like there was a study years ago um, where I think like the first Korean women's golf team, they never won a champion. So this was for the LPGA and the junior version of that.
Mm.
Once one of them won,
Mhm.
the next year three placed, and
Mm.
then from that point on, because it's being able to see yourself and identify and say that I can do this. You know what I mean? So I think when we have these frames of reference, and now
Mhm.
there are many more than when I started. Because when I
Mhm.
started, I mean, look, I came up in a time when we had Sidney Poitier,
Mhm.
we had Bill Cosby,
Mhm.
we had James Earl Jones,
Mhm.
we had you know we had the black exploitation films.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, some of us identified with, obviously Superfly, the Mac. So we had, those, but we didn't really. And again, look at that. So like the first three or four that I named were doing really good work and honorable work. And when I say honorable, I shouldn't say honorable. Let me take that back. They were
Mhm.
doing more quote unquote dignified work
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
as opposed to they weren't just doing the pimp thing, they weren't doing the drug thing, they were doing like James Earl Jones was doing what he was doing. Sydney was the king of class and dignity.
Mhm.
Um, but if you really look at it compared to what's happening today, there weren't many frames of references for a young boy like me growing up in Hartford, Connecticut to aspire to that. So
Mhm.
my mother was like, "Yo, are you crazy?" Like, because she was scared, and that's what
Mhm.
she was scared because there wasn't a history of success for people that look like me. There wasn't a history of, oh, I can point to this person, this person, this person. Okay, maybe you do have a chance. We had that maybe more so in athletics,
Mhm.
but so my mother, out of love and out of fear
Mhm.
wanted me to do the factory job. I grew up in a town where an aerodynamic company by the name of Pratt and Whitney was huge. It was a great job. I mean,
Mhm.
whether you went to college or not, it was a great job. People were bringing home some good money, and that was the move. And here
Mhm.
I come saying, yeah, I think I want to go pursue this. So I think something I'm proud of is that if somebody on this sees me doing it,
Mhm.
that and me and other people like me. It's not just but if they're now seeing these people that's doing it, they have a greater sense of confidence. So visibility is extremely important. That's in all fields. That's in all fields. It gives you that confidence.
So when you look back at your career, because I'm gonna do like some basic questions and then I'm gonna dive deep into your books. But when you look back at your career, earlier career versus now, what parts of your voice feels freer today?
Um, I think I think all of it.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that is little by little you grow if you're doing it right. No matter, and again, a lot of the way that I view life, it's not just as an artist, but it is through the lens of an artist. So
Mm.
but I tend to think that when people are tapped into what they do and what they do well,
Mhm.
I can draw inspiration from someone in a completely different field.
Mhm.
I draw inspiration from athletes.
Mm.
So the arts and athletics are very different. But when I see someone get up off the mat and they dig deeper, and when I
Mhm.
see strategy, and when I see discipline, and when I see, so those are the to me the benchmarks of what we're going to do. So I think my voice now is stronger across the board. A lot of times from the influence, not just from fellow artists, and there's plenty of influence from that,
Mm.
but from just people that I admire, people that, and sometimes that's simple. Listen, I'm one of those dudes that I just love people that love what they do. I don't care
Right.
what it is. Let me tell you something. I've had my mind blown by taxi drivers. Seriously.
Mm.
Like I've sat in the back and I was like, you know, like, because let me tell you something. Listen, no matter what you do, understand the craft of what you do. And when you break it down into the form of craft, and so listen, if I'm saying to a cab driver, "Oh my God, I got to get to the airport, or I got to get here, I got to do whatever," an Uber driver, whatever, and they're like, "Okay, listen, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that," and you see how they handle things, you see how they handle you, you see the respect they give you, you see how the thoughtfulness sometimes is, whatever. You just, is this station okay for you? Is this
Yeah.
whatever? So whether it's someone bagging groceries, it's like when people understand the craft and they respect the craft, it might not even be their lifelong ambition to just be that, but
Yeah.
that's where they are right now, and they respect the craft. And so when they respect the craft, when I see that, that helps my voice to grow, and that's helped my voice to grow across the board as an actor, as a director. And then the cool thing is, the more I do, the more it feeds itself.
Mm.
The more I direct, the more it informs me about acting. The more I deal with actors, the more I act, the better I'm balanced on directing. Here's the thing: like when I started producing, the first thing I said was, I want to be the type of producer that I always wished I had. I'm not going to lie to actors. I'm not going to BS them. And so when people say you're a really good producer, I
Mm.
take a lot of pride in it because I've had a lot of bad producers. I've had some
Mm.
really good producers, but I've had people that will lie in your face, they will do whatever. I've had directors that didn't know anything about my craft as an actor. They didn't know how to talk to me as an actor. So I was like, look, I know one thing: when I become a director, I'll know how to talk to actors. I know the
Mm.
craft of acting. Not to say that I know everything about it, but I'm saying I know the foundation of acting. So I bring that. So when I pull up to an actor on set and I'm whispering in their ear, and I'm saying some things, and I was directing, an episode of a Dick Wolf show, and the lead actor was in the scene, and
Mm.
a two-person scene, and so it was a really, really important scene. And so I whispered something into the fellow actor's ear,
Mm.
and I said, "Action!" Did it, and the lead actor, I yelled, "Cut!" The lead actor runs over to me, and he's like, "What did you tell him?" Because he saw such a change in that.
Mm.
Whatever I whispered into his ear, it changed him. And that's what you want to live for as a director. You want to be able to connect and communicate. That's what you live for as an artist. You want to be, but again, I think it's across the board. You want to be able to communicate with people that allows them to get the best of themselves out of your advice, out of your
Mm.
input. So that's my job as an actor. That's my job more so as a director, as a producer. I want people, when I started writing, I want, I say this because I've been laughing ever since I saw your review. Ironically, I write the key people that I write for are people like you, and and hold on to what I'm saying. When I saw all the tabs and all the taking the notes, I was like, I write for people like that. Ultimate, you write for a broad scope of people. But like for instance, Shakespeare wrote for the groundlings and the royalty, so he
Mhm.
knew his audience. So my audience, for me, I want to be able to withstand the scrutiny of people like you who are going in and go, "Oh, we got to talk about this. We got to," because when I was at Juilliard, that's how we broke down. I have a classical training, which I'm very proud of.
Mhm.
And we studied Ibsen and Chekhov and Shakespeare,
Mhm.
and I mean, just amazing people. I did theater and August Wilson, and these are the greats. And the thing about it is, you have to become almost a dramaturg. You have to become a student of drama and understanding literary effect, so that you go, okay, they said this on page 13. Now, when I got to page 45, oh my God, that hit me. But that's someone paying attention. They're not just. So when I see someone like you jotting down notes and having an opinion and go, oh, we got to talk about this. That was my intention when I started. That's the type of writer I aspire to be. And right out the gate, I aspired to be. I'm still on my journey, but people like you actually make me feel good, because how many books do we read where we don't have an opinion about? It's like what we used to say, Chinese food was, or McDonald's, like you eat it and then like an hour later you're hungry because it doesn't have the sustenance of the soul. And so I wanted my writing style to be like, yes, you're getting a great thriller, you're getting a whodunit, you're getting a cat and mouse, you're getting all the staples of a good thriller. You're getting adrenaline, you're getting characterization, you're getting conflict, you're getting twists, you're getting turns. All of that has to be there. But I also wanted to put in some cookies for people to be able to be like, oh, hold on. Oh my God, this connects to this. This is how that's the goal, and that's the journey that I'm still on, and I'm happy. But I get a kick. I can really get a kick. I mean, I had an attitude with you because when I saw that, when you sent it over, I'm like, why the hell didn't she reach out to me early? Like, this is the fan. This is the kind of fan I've been. And I'm like, when did she write this thing? Because I didn't get to it till late, but. That's the kind of fan you want. That's the kind of person you want. And then listen, everybody has a right to interpret your work however they want to interpret. Once you, as an artist, you do your work, you put it out there. It's however, some people will like something, some people will hate the exact same thing. So you don't control that. But you want people to understand that you are respecting their time and that you put in work to respect it. If you're going to give me an average book reader, let's say, takes a week to read a book. Let's just say on average, a good read, right? If you're going to give me a week of your time, I owe you. I owe you homework. I owe you research. I owe you something real. I owe you twists. I owe you that's not a characterization that's not predictable. I owe you. That's my responsibility. I owe you a sense of honesty. I owe you, when I say honesty, it's not going to be a situation where you go, that's completely implausible. I read a very popular book that was turned into a movie recently. And I was like, okay, I get it. I get the audience. I get the audience. I got to the end. I was like, that's the most implausible thing, and I felt offended. That I'm sorry, you're insulting my intelligence.
Yeah.
There's no way in hell that would ever happen.
Yeah.
And so I try to write in such a way, again, one may or may not like it, but one thing, I put in the work, and this is, so when we talk about what informs the other, you have to understand, like ER was a major influence in my life, and on my craft. But see, one thing about ER that separated it, one of the many things that separated it from other shows, was that we had incredible tech advisors. We had doctors. Their job was to make me look like a surgeon. So they were on me. How you scrub your hands, how you prepare, what kind of things you wear, when do you put this on, when do you, this is a contaminated area, this is a sterile area, blah, blah, blah. And so I learned to respect, again, the craft. And that's respecting. So when a lot of times people on the street would come up, it was, oh my God, I love ER, I love ER. I was particularly touched by people in the medical profession. So when a doctor came up to me and said, you guys are doing it right, that compliment went deeper, because that meant we didn't lie. That means we didn't, of course, we can't do everything perfect in an hour-long drama, but my point is, they saw that we were attempting. I watched another medical drama years ago, and I saw a surgeon walking around the ER in his scrubs and in his cap, and then he went to perform an operation. So he basically was contaminated, and I was like, "Oh, I'm a pro." And I was like, "Oh, hell no," and I got all indignant, but my point is, that's a lie.
Yeah.
That's a lie. And the thing that people have to understand about storytelling, I once told, and then when I was the executive producer and the main director on Chicago PD, I had a cop who was the heart and soul of the show. His name is Brian Luch, and Luch is the best there is. And he would tell us he would make our cops look like real cops. And his father was a cop. He was a cop. His father was a cop. His father was on the wall, which meant he died as a cop, and so he always wanted to honor his father, and I always felt an obligation to honor him, to honor his father, and that's how I feel about readers. That's how I feel about all the arts. It's like it's our job to honor you by at least telling you the truth. And one day I told him, I said, Luch, you got to be careful. We were analyzing a script, and I told him, I said, you got to be careful because a good script dies one lie at a time. And he was like, and that, but think about it. A good story dies one lie. Like sometimes we forgive something. Like, yeah, that wouldn't really happen, but okay, cool. It's a good story. Then something else. That wouldn't. And then at some point you start going, yeah, come on, no, that's.
I feel that. I feel that. So let me ask you, and I've always wanted to ask you this. As a trained thespian, you embody a character physically, emotionally, and vocally, even spiritually. As a writer, you build that character from nothing. How does living inside a character differ from creating them?
Mm. Well, I think creating a character, you have to realize I'm creating their past, I'm creating their present. And so some of my, for me, some of my favorite writing is even when we have sort of flashbacks or we have things that show you more of the character. Because the great thing about I've written, obviously look, I started off as an actor, so of course I, would write short films and I directed short films. So I've written maybe 8 feature films or feature scripts, even if they were just a pilot for a show. Out of that 8, I'd say 2 were really good. 3 were good. The rest of them were okay. And that's we have to be honest about what we do well and what we don't do well.
Right.
But here's the weird thing. I think I'm a much better author than I am a screenwriter. And I realized, I was like, why is that? And I realized, wow, I get to really go into this character's mind. I get to share thoughts, dreams. When I say dreams, I mean literal dreams. I get to, you can write a cool chapter about somebody dreaming. So in some of my books, there'll be dreams. And as a matter of fact, Laws of Solomon had a couple of dreams that 2 of the guys the prisoners were, that they had. So it helps you to get into the psychology of them even more. So when you're creating, you have more control. You have more control of depth. You have more control of direction. You have more. So for me, I think I'm a better author. I think I'm a better author than I'm a better actor.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think I've, I don't know. I just feel like I've had more. I feel like I get more. I'm always striving for it. I think we should always strive for it, but don't always land in the most truth, the most. Listen. We have a saying in acting that I was fortunate to learn at like 14 years old, and we used to say acting is having a private moment publicly.
Mm. Hmm.
So here's the thing about that. When you're alone at in your house, you have no fear of judgment.
Right.
You have no insecurities. You have no doubts. However you look, you walk around, and people can look in the mirror and not always be crazy about how their body looks or whatever. But in general, it's not the same thing of having an audience. So you're usually at your most truthful when you're alone, because you don't have to apologize to anybody. You don't have to soften. You could be whatever you want to be when you're alone. So when you're having a private moment, now the task of the artist, and it's a huge undertaking, is to share that private moment, whether you be a visual artist, whether you be a singer, a songwriter, whether you are a direct, whatever it is, your obligation, your first duty is to make these private moments, to make the audience feel like they're being voyeurs, that they're peering into the most private parts of someone's lives. As a writer, as an author, I do that better as an author than I do it well. I think I do it well as a director as well. But that's the goal. That's always the goal. A lot of times I'm proud of myself when I feel like I've achieved that goal, but I'm also honest enough to say I don't always hit it. I might hit it at a higher level. I'm very critical of myself. So I may be hitting it at a higher level than most people. They're like, oh my God, what are you talking about? That was great. I'm like, no, I can do better. Because, you know, here's one for you. And I know I'm filled with all these aphorisms,
I
but
love it.
this is what I live by. Okay,
I'm
so
loving
so,
it.
so bear with me, bear with me. Um, I think one of the coolest things about art, your art should tell on you.
Hmm. Oh, please elaborate that one.
Okay, people read my books, and some of them think I am a twisted, crazy, crazy dude because they get dark. They get really dark. So I'm telling on my imagination. I'm telling on the fact that I'm not afraid to go to the dark side for a good story. Now, let me be very clear. I don't act out any of this stuff. I'm a even kill person. But as an artist, I've learned to, particularly as an author, and this is again when you ask the difference between acting and directing and being an author, and as an actor, I still have shy moments. I'm not shy when I write.
Mm.
Not shy with the darkness. I'm not shy with the edge. I'm not shy with the vulnerability. I'm
Mm.
not shy with the sensitivity. I'm
Mm.
not shy with the effed upness of the human nature. I'm not shy in those as an actor. Every once in a while, and I don't act as much, so it takes me that much warmer to even that much longer to warm up, into it. But so yeah, you get a little shy. You get, you're like, whoa. But as an author, no, because you know why? The art of writing is a solitary art. So when we go back to the private moment, think about this. I'm saying acting is having a private moment publicly. Well, let's replace acting with art. Art is having a private moment publicly. So even as a visual artist, I'm gonna really put some depth into this painting. I'm gonna like Da Vinci, I'm gonna like the greats. I'm gonna expose what I think of women in the 1800s. I'm going to do like whatever, like, that's that glint in the eye, Mona Lisa. What is that glint about? So so that's how I see this woman seeing the world, right? So I'm going to do this. So so art is having a private moment publicly. So as a singer, think, why do all of us sing in the shower? Why do all of us sing our lungs off? I was singing. Oh, by the way, I put this together this really cool playlist for the Laws of Solomon, which is on Spotify right now. Um, and I wanted people to kind of hear it even before they read the book, and then to hear it after. So I just put a bunch of really cool songs. So anyway, so a couple of songs, my favorite songs. So I'm singing this song, and I'm in my car, and I'm blowing. I'm killing it. I am killing it, right? Something happens to that satellite. Something happens where the satellite jumps out,
Mm-hmm.
and I hit a note that was so horrendous and so bad. And I was like, what the? I can't sing worth a lick, right? But I was hiding behind the music. You can't hear how bad you are when you're singing with someone who's singing well, right? So
Right.
all of a sudden, the satellite took my music out, and I was like, "Oh my God, that was so bad." But see, we sing in the shower, we sing in our cars, we sing because we're having a private moment. But
Mm.
how many of us can then go from the shower and sing in front of people with that same commitment? Like we'll grab a broom, we'll grab a hairbrush, we got our mic, we'll sing with Luther, with Whitney. We can sing with anybody
Yeah.
because we have the courage. But
Right.
when it's public, we can't do that because we know who we are. So as long as an artist, if you can maintain that, if you can maintain that kind of fearlessness, if you
Mm-hmm.
can, you know who I love as an actor? Will Ferrell. You know why? You know why? I know, didn't see that one coming. But you know why? That
Why?
dude will do anything. That dude will do anything for a laugh. You know what I mean? Like he's not buff. He'll be in walking around in some tidy whities with a black flabby body, and he will do any. There's a fearlessness to his comedy, and I love comics that are fearless. I love singers that are fearless. I love actors that are fearless. I love, you know what I mean? And so that's what writing allows me to do. It allows me to be more fearless. It's probably
Mm.
of all the art forms that I do. Directing, I'm demanding other people do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm good at that because we're all good at giving advice to
Yeah.
people that we can't always follow and giving. We're all good at that.
Yeah.
So I'm good at that, but think about it. As a writer, I'm good at that private moment, and that's I think that's what makes the writing so edgy, and that's so when I say your art should tell on you, it tells that this dude is fearless. Oh my God, he embraces the darks. Oh my, so people are like, oh, that is so
Yeah.
dark, that's so edgy, that's so this, that's so that. Yeah, I'm telling the best story I can. Anyway,
Mm. So I wanted to ask, what can novelists learn from theater training when it comes to tension, pacing, and emotional realism?
well, I don't know if that's I don't know that's how if I would look at it that way. I think this. I think
Mm-hmm.
when you're looking at truth, when you're searching for truth, when you're trying to be as truthful an actor, um, you now don't allow yourself. You're going to find the pace
Mm-hmm.
because there's a need. You have to realize actors are in scenes because the characters have needs. And
Mm.
so when you're servicing the needs, and this is crucial to understand. We as actors more often service our egos than we service the needs of the character. This is about how I look. Do I look cool? So you get guys coming in the trench coats with the collar turned up. And when you walk around in real life, how many people do you really see walking around with a trench coat with their collars turned? Like, you know what I mean? But on film, it looks good. So
Yeah.
what are we doing? We're serving the ego. Don't I look good? That's what. So back to Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell doesn't care if he looks a certain way. I mean, of course I admire so many other actors, but I wanted to give that one to you because that's not
Yeah.
what most people would kind of expect, right? But I think that myself included, being guilty, we service our egos, and we even service our egos out of fear.
Mm.
I'm not going to do that. That's going to make me look stupid. That's going to make me look weak.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One of my proudest moments in acting was there was an episode of ER. It was a big episode of ER where Noah Wiley's character had been busted. He was addicted to drugs. He'd become addicted to prescription drugs, and they were ready to, things were getting bad. And I
Mm.
stepped in and I demanded that he go to rehab. And we're out and we're having this big argument, and he ends up punching me.
Mm.
And one of my proudest moments in acting was I told him, I said, dude, you throw the punch, I'm gonna sell it.
Mm.
I'm gonna make it look like you knocked the F out of me. Now, in general, our egos are like, we kind of take a punch and we're cool about it. I didn't care. I wasn't thinking about being cool. I was thinking about servicing the script, and more importantly, I was thinking about servicing the story and his character. I was thinking about it was one of my
Sorry
least
about that.
selfish. It's fine. It's fine. It's one of my least selfish moments because it was one of the rare times as an actor that I was more concerned about the needs of another actor than I was about my own.
Yeah.
I was more concerned about the image and the storytelling and the characterizations of someone else than I was of my own. I think the goal is to continually strive for that, and I think that there are brilliant actors that nail that so often. But I mean, if we're really being honest,
Mm-hmm.
I have to say I haven't accomplished that, or I don't accomplish that as often as I would love to as an actor. I
Mm-hmm.
do it as a director, I do as an author, and even to a degree, I do it as a producer.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of my. So that's the thing is like, are we servicing the character? Are we and as authors? So the pacing will come if you're servicing the needs of the character. All of the things that you ask, if you're servicing the story and the character, you all of that's you want because see pacing is interrupted with indulgence. I want to milk this. Ooh, this is a good monologue. I'm talking about how my mama died, and I'm gonna take that dramatic moment, and I want that camera to hit me right here. And I'm sorry, actors. We have we have. And I love being an actor. Don't get it twisted. But
Yeah.
I know my flaw. This is why I consider myself a good director because I know my bullshit as an actor, so I can spot it in other actors, and
Mm.
I can go up to them and whisper and let them know that they're serving their ego and not. And a lot of times they give you that knowing look like, okay, and then they flip it. But it's only because I have to admit my own weakness in it. We all have we battle with that. So to answer your question, if you're servicing the needs of the character, the needs of the script, the needs of the story, the needs of the production, if you're servicing that, pacing and all of that stuff, you're being honest about vulnerability. You're being honest about your the flaws that your character has, and you're not trying to compensate by in the end still looking cool. You're
Mm.
serving. This is not a time for the character to look cool. This
Mm.
is a time for the character to look, you know what I mean? And I'm servicing that. So that addresses
Yeah.
all of the things that you asked.
Psychological thrillers force you to live in a dark emotional space sometimes.
Yes.
Does writing crime thrillers change how you see humanity?
No, I think it changes how I explore mankind.
Please tell me how.
Well, because I think that so the first book is called Laws of Depravity. And what I've done, that's the one word that appears in all books, depravity.
Mm.
And it's intentional, again, in a subtle way. And it's funny because I'm writing the fifth book now, and I literally just put in depravity the other day. That I wanted to make sure that that word was in because you have to explore depravity. Someone once said, um, "Never judge a man by their virtues; judge them by their depravities. Virtues can be faked; depravities are real."
Oh shit.
And you think about it, you know what I mean? It's just like I can fake virtuousness. I can be polite. I can be courteous. I can be kind, seemingly kind and patient. I can open up the door for you. That could all be. I could go home and be a mass murderer.
Wow.
But your depravities, you can only fake those for so long. You can only hide them for so long. So we, as a society, we tend to judge people more by what we see as their virtues, and we're quick to go, "Oh my God, she's so this, or he's so this, or whatever." But you know, so listen, look at where we are right now in the world. Stuff is coming out about all kinds of people, and I'm gonna leave it there.
Yeah, I
I'm
get
not
you.
gonna
I
say
get you.
names, but I'm just gonna say people that have been lauded and held up high and blah blah blah, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God! Listen, people, yeah. Before I get into trouble, I'm gonna leave it there and
Yeah,
let you
yeah.
feel it.
I
Okay.
got you. I got you.
Yeah. Yeah. So judge a person by their depravities, not by their virtues. Virtues can be fake, depravities can't.
Speaking of law of depravity, let's talk about it.
Okay.
The concept of ritualistic murders fled, tied to religious martyrdom is very psychologically and culturally loaded. What conversations were you trying to start with this premise?
Well, the premise, the book I had written, I had an attempt at when I decided I wanted to explore being a novelist. I wrote a manuscript, and it wasn't well received. It was, as a matter of fact, I'm just being polite. Not only was it not well received, I had friends that I gave the manuscript to that literally act like I never gave it to them. like they just tried to act like it didn't exist, right? They were just like, and listen, here's the thing about an artist. Once you hand over your work, you stop breathing until someone comes back to you and tells you what they think of it, and you want it to be good, right? So I'm giving it to a few people, and a week goes by. You're like, okay, cool. 2 weeks go by, 3 weeks, and then and then at some point I realized it didn't quite work, but there was a really cool concept of two people. The
Mm-hmm.
whole book was based on a man and woman who meet in a graveyard. So she's there laying flowers for someone, and she
Mm-hmm.
sees him, and they end up getting into this interesting romance. So that was the whole that was the foundation of the entire book.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this real dark love story. So then at the end of the book, she was going through trauma. She had suffered trauma, and he was this very mysterious character. And at the end of the book, you realize she comes to realize she shows up at the her father abused her, and so she was
Mm-hmm.
dealing with that, and then her mother had died. So she at the end she has this monologue based on her relationship with this guy. She has this monologue where she finally confronts her dead father. She says all the things that she needs to say.
Mm-hmm.
As she's walking away, she notices a tombstone, and the tombstone is her lover.
Mm-hmm.
And so you realize the guy was dead the whole time. But he came back to sort of usher her through.
Yeah.
So I was like, yo, that's a kind of cool story. Didn't no one else thought that. So, but I saved that concept. But what was the real inspiration for Laws of Depravity was that one day I was in my office and I read this interesting article. I didn't know it at the time, and I found out a lot of people didn't know. Um, all of Jesus's disciples were brutally murdered, and it's not in the Bible. But if you look at any theologians, the writings of the theologians, you can look it up. Everyone, all of them, and it wasn't just 12. He had what was called the greater and lesser disciples, and I think he rolled with about 30. I think he wrote about 30 deep, 30, 32 deep, and they were crucified, beheaded, dragged through the streets, torn limb from limb. And John was the only one that survived. He was put into a vat of boiling oil, but survived somehow. And then he was banished to the Greek island of Patmos, where he wrote the book of Revelations. So I read that and I was like, man, that's wow. I never knew that, right? And so something just hit me and said, that would make a cool modern day serial killer. What if we had a modern day serial killer that was killing people in the same manner that Jesus's disciples were murdered? So that's where the book, and then I attached that, I salvaged parts of that love story kind of thing, and because writers will hold on to everything, right? So I salvaged part of it, so I ended up with I ended up knowing my antagonist before I knew my protagonist. So once I knew I was going to have a really good antagonist, a really good killer. And I think one of the staples of being a thriller writer is you want original kills. You want, because everybody, okay, this person got shot. Okay, what's an original kill? And I thought, well, these are original. This is an original theme for killing people. You see what I'm saying? So that is like, okay, so I understood who my killer was going to be.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, now I got to find some cool protagonists who are going to be my heroes. And I want my heroes, I want them to be kind of messed up as well.
Yeah.
So I want there to be a conflict. And so in the first book, you have a person who, I'm sorry for those that haven't read it yet, please go and read it. I hope this is a spoiler alert, but you have a cop who was molested by police, who's now in charge of investigating the death of pedophilic priests. That's conflict. That's some good, and so that's what you want. You want some good stuff. So this dude is, and then one of the great successes for me of the book is when people hit me and they're like, "Look, maybe I'm twisted, but I was rooting for the bad guy."
I was too.
I was rooting for the bad guy. You know what I mean?
I was too.
Yeah, and you're like, good. I'm glad you were engaged, because it's my job to make that quote unquote bad guy relatable, to make him 3-4 dimensional, so that you can see. You don't have to agree with what he did, but you have to understand. So I'm not just going to present it from he's this psychopathic person. He might be a psychopath. But at some point you go, that kind of makes sense. The same thing. I'm just skipping ahead. When I wrote The Racists in Laws of Annihilation as an African American man, but listen, it would be easy as an African American man to write them as buffoons and idiots.
Yeah.
I was like, nope, I'm going to make them smart. I'm going to make them, and I went one step, and I'm not going to give too much away on that one, but you know who the villain ended up being, and how brilliant was the villain. You see what I'm saying?
Man.
So that's my point. It's my job and my responsibility. So again, back to that whole thing about having the courage to embrace things. I can embrace that my enemies can be smart, that people that mean me harm can be. So I don't have to, because that's how it is in reality. And so I'm going to give them credit and say, you know what? Maybe you guys are. You've got this thing. So that's the kind of thing you want. So anyway.
I honestly thought of him, because you see, I love comic books, but I actually was equating him to Batman as an anti-hero. And who else did I say? Joker, in a way. And that's how I saw him in the characteristics he had. Like, he's bad, yes, but there was a method to his madness. And there
was a reason. There was a reason. And someone hit me yesterday, and someone I was just doing business with, and they just happened to start picking up the book, and they hit me, and they were talking about, and they started talking about. So at first I thought, okay, I'm just doing business with them, and they're just being polite. But then you start realizing, no, they're really reading it. And so then I just got to the part, a week later, I just got to the part where Degler does this and does that. And it's actually one of my favorite chapters. It's the scene where it's Degler and Macklin. And I was like, like what a lot of people don't understand. I was like, that's a love story for me. Like,
Mm,
and you have these two opposite people.
that's
So I think you have to have these kinds of things. With my point is this: whether for those that have read the series or read the books that haven't, there's always going to be an objective, empathetic view of all characters. I'm going to make my good guys are not going to always going to be all good. My bad guys aren't going to be all bad. And that is why I think the fan base loves these books, because they're like conflicted. They're like, okay, I love like it's like, listen, think about this. Silence of the Lambs. We
mm.
applauded when Hannibal Lecter said at the end, "I'm having a friend for dinner." We're applauding a cannibal who's about to
Yes,
go eat someone, and
yes,
we're going. You know why? Because he
yes.
was such a well-rounded character that he was eating people, and so that informed me on my kind of the kind of storytelling I wanted to tell. I wanted to do, which was like, yo, this is really cool. So yeah,
So the killer believes he is morally righteous
yes,
and almost
and anointed.
divinely divinely justified.
Yes,
Why was it important to blur that line between monster and believer?
because I think in society you have so many people that think racist people. Think about slave owners. Slave
Mm-hmm.
owners thought it was their right to own other people. They felt
Mm-hmm.
that those lives, they were beneath them. So they felt, well, if I treat them maybe halfway, those that felt that they treated them decent,
Mm-hmm.
they felt they were good people, because
Mm.
you can own someone, but if you maybe give them two pieces of bread for dinner, that makes you feel human. So we still have, I think, when people were saying women shouldn't have rights, they, from their point of view, they felt they were right. They felt that that
Mm.
would compromise the betterment of the government,
Mm-hmm.
apartheid. They felt, you see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
we have these quote unquote monsters that live amongst us.
Mm-hmm.
And what makes a person a monster is the justification and the belief that what they did was okay. And usually it's because we lessen the importance of another life. So when you take what's happening with this whole Epstein thing, and it's just like
Mm-hmm.
these grown ass men doing, these little girls. Somehow in their minds, that little girl is there to, it's that man's right to
Mm-hmm.
do this. It's that, and then you start twisting things. Well, in the Bible, men were marrying 13-year-old girls, and you know
Yeah.
what I mean? But you follow what you want to follow, and we have these hypocrisies because you're not following everything in the Bible. You know what I mean? You're not doing this, and God said you should be stoned if you did this, if you did that, if you, so we what we tend to do, human nature, is we grab onto what is convenient for us and what justifies our selfishness, our
Mm-hmm.
evil in extreme cases. But we as human nature, on the most basic level, good or bad, we justify our needs.
Mm-hmm.
Find ways to justify our needs. Now, those needs can be based on selfishness. They can also be based on evil. And
Mm.
and those are blurred lines. So what I wanted to do was to say, yeah, here's a guy who, in his mind, he's doing God's work. There's no greater purpose for
Mm.
him, and he's doing that work against people that are doing horrible things. So, is he justified? Now, that's ultimately for the reader to decide. I don't determine the outcome for a reader. I let a reader decide who they root for, how they root or not root for, what they like, what they don't like. It's my job as an author, as an author. I just try to put out an interesting thing for you to have a conversation. I like dilemmas. I like people being, but I like heavy. I love these kinds of conversations. I love debates. That's
Mm.
what the books were written for. The books were written for us, as opposed to being disposable art. Instead
Mm.
of, like, you read a book and we've all done it. And a week later, you can barely remember the details of a book. Again, if you give me a week of your life and you're coming home and you're reading an hour, you're reading 2 hours, or some people, oh my God, they're like, oh my God, once I read it, I couldn't stop. If you're giving that to me, at the very least, I owe you some stuff that sticks. You know what I mean? Some stuff that makes you think and go, wow, I don't even know if I agree with that, but damn, that's a deep point. Good. Now we can have dialogue about it. You can have dialogue with somebody else. You're like, yo, I read this book, and it was weird because I started rooting for this dude that was killing these priests and blah blah blah. And so you take the lowest that's killing the highest, but are they the highest? They're the highest in title, but their actions are the lowest. So his actions are the highest because his actions are based on God's word. So now you can now debate that whole thing for a little bit.
Yeah.
That's the purpose of the books, or selfishly.
Yo, you be dropping gems and everything. And I cuss a lot. I'm just holding it in because I'm trying to be respectable. But you be dropping gems so fucking much. I'm sitting here in my head like, God damn. I'm just sitting here just taking it all in like a sponge. And before I continue with the next set of questions, y'all have a chance on this live to get this book, and my fucking favorite, this book. So make sure
that's the order. That's the exact order. And you should read the first book first because it sets up because there's such a cool twist at the end of book 1 that if you've read book 2, it softens the blow. But if you get to the end of book 1, you're like, oh shit. And then you get to the end of book 2, you're like, oh shit. And then you get to book 3 and you're like,
my God, today.
Yeah.
So you have a chance to win all 3. So make sure you're commenting and you're engaging in the conversation because I'm watching. I can multitask, y'all. So the next question I have for you is what struck to me, what just hit me was how you didn't just pull us as readers in to the killer's mind. You also the detectives and even the people emotionally connected with him. Why was it important to show every psychological angle?
Well, because it's real simple. Excuse me. You just want investment. You want people being invested. And in the first book, it was important for me because I was writing such gore and violence, and it was, stuff was so dark, and that I balanced it. I wanted to have some balance with a love story. Now, some people don't like love stories in the midst of a thriller. I kind of wanted it to be interwoven because I wanted people to be able to breathe, because some of the crimes were so heinous and so intense. So it's like, listen, if you're just sprinting, at some point, it's just like you can't sustain it. But if you are pacing and you're running at a high pace, but you're mixing it in, so I wanted, because I needed you to see as many sides of these people as possible, the good guys as well as the bad guys. Because with that, now the reader is invested. The reader wants to know. So listen, you put someone in a room with a gun on someone, doesn't really mean anything if you don't know who the person holding the gun or the person that the gun is pointed at. It doesn't really, but the more you know, if you have the guy that's holding the gun is, at first you look at it, you go, he's a bad guy. And the guy that the gun is being held to is the good guy. But now you get details. You say the guy holding the gun is the father of a 7-year-old child that was raped by the guy. Now your perspective is like,
snap. Okay.
So now I'm invested in a different, because it's all perspective and storytelling. So my perspective is, I show up thinking I know what I know. Oh, this is the bad guy. He's got a gun. He's mean. He's blah, blah, blah. This guy is cowering and crying. And you're like, oh my God, spare him. Then you You hear the father detail what
Mm.
this guy did to his 7-year-old, and I'm just making this up just to make it
Yeah,
funny.
yeah,
But you see what this guy, you hear what this guy did to his 7-year-old daughter. What happens now? Your opinion flips. Why?
Yes.
Because of information. And now you have a different type of investment. Now you still might say it's wrong to kill, but you hear the heinous things that this grown man did to this little girl, and then the father is saying, "Hey, my wife committed suicide after that." Like the more you it now, you're like, "Oh my God, shoot, shoot his ass." You know what I mean? Or your morality. See, again, here. I'm gonna add something. I said earlier, your art tells on you. Let's adjust it. The output of art tells on you.
Mhm.
So does the input of art. And what I mean by that is I'm putting out art. I'm writing. It tells on me. It tells me I'm not afraid to go dark. It tells me I'm not afraid. Your input, you're taking the art in. That's going to tell on you. You're rooting for the bad guy. You're rooting for a cannibal at the end of Silence of the Lambs. What does that say about you? It tells on you. Art is telling on you. Art should tell on you. Output, input. It should tell on you. So,
Damn. The book moves through the New York nightlife, religious spaces, and investigating worlds. How did you build that layered atmosphere without losing the narrative tension?
because because a lot of writers write location as location. I write location as character.
Mm.
So New York is basically a fifth character in the book.
Damn. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, the brutality is so intense in this book.
We still talking about depravity?
Yeah.
Okay, we haven't gotten to your favorite. Okay, we're still talking about
We
depravity.
haven't even touched
Let me
the
know what
surface.
level of twisted. Let me know which twisted we talk about. Okay, so we still talking about
Okay.
depravity.
Okay, we're still talking about Laws of Depravity, y'all. If you haven't got the book, you need to get it. This is book 1. The brutality is intense, but it never feels like gratuitous. You know what I mean?
Right.
How do you decide when violence serves story versus when it becomes spectacle?
Well, I think as a filmmaker, so here's one, as a director, producer, author, I always want action,
Mm-hmm.
sex, violence. I want it to elevate the story. I want it to reveal more. So you don't stop to put in a sex scene. You don't
Right.
stop to put in I think bad movies stop to put in a chase scene. You look at one of the greatest chase scenes, I'm going to go old school on you. You look at one of the greatest chase scenes ever filmed, The French Connection.
Oh.
That came out that was such an organic chase scene. It wasn't like, now, of course, movies are just, okay, we need a chase scene.
Yeah.
But back then, this was telling us about his character, about his drive. He was damn near, our hero was suicidal in the pursuit of, you see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I don't write gratuitous sex. I don't write gratuitous violence. I don't write gratuitous love scenes. I don't write gratuitous action. I always strive to make sure that once you go through this, you've learned something more about the character. You've learned something more about the story. So it's elevated because I write, the goal is always to write in a vertical style, meaning that it just keeps getting higher. So I'm not gonna have this really cool dramatic scene. Now we're just gonna go lateral and we're gonna have this sex scene. No, I want the sex scene to now complement what just happened and what will happen. So now we learn something about these characters. So if you look at Laws of Depravity, by the time Quincy makes love to his lover, it's both of them. She's broken.
Mm-hmm.
She's broken. He's broken from a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
If he remains broken, he's not going to survive this case. So it comes back to the primary story, which is the case. So it's only through him finding this love and finding this person that he begins to heal as a hero that can then do the job that he was born to do. Otherwise, he was just holding, think about this, he was holding on to hatred, he was holding on to anger, he was holding on to resentment, he was holding on to, all rage. He was holding on to trauma. That is what our bad guy technically held on to, and look at what it made him do. The point of so much of the story, he and Quincy had the potential to become him. That's the thing. So it's how we manage our trauma. It's how we manage our anger. It's how we manage our love. It's how we manage all of these things. Right. And those are choices, and that becomes the definition of your character. And character is doing sometimes what you don't have to do. I had a really good friend of mine the other day. I needed some counseling, and I called up a friend of mine, Michelle, and by the end of the phone call, she was like, "No, dude, it's about you being who you are. It's not defined by whatever someone did to you or whatever. It's who you. That's your character." And sometimes you need friends and people around you that remind you who your character is. And so Quincy's character was undefined. Quincy's character was broken. It was dark. It was this. So here's the cool thing about these dark books. Mm-hmm. The crime that they're investigating will either make or break them. And that's true in all books. The crime will either make or break them. Quincy will either become consumed with his hatred and his trauma and his pain. He will either become consumed and become closer to who the bad guy is, or he will find himself anew and be more of a phoenix rising out of fire. That's what the love story represents.
Damn. Okay. So we're going to book 2.
Okay, bring on book 2.
Laws of Wrath, y'all. Here we go.
So for those that haven't read the series, I had a really cool conversation with my assistant yesterday. I was saying how so much of this was intentional. So you don't have many African Americans in the thriller space, African American authors in the thriller space. And so I wanted to make sure, so I have 3 characters for those of you that don't know anything about the series. So there are 3 protagonists. One is Quincy. Quincy is Irish Italian American. His partner, Quincy's a cop. His partner is African American. His name is Fee. Mm-hmm. And then Macklin is a white female Jewish FBI agent. Mm-hmm. And it was very intentional as an African American author, or as an author who happens to be African American, that my first book not be focused on the African American character. And the reason, so the cool thing about these books, I mean, those 3 protagonists, they're the leads throughout the book. So everybody, but everyone has each book has a slightly more elevated point of view. So Laws of Depravity really is about, let's call them journeys. Each character has their journey. So even though all 3 of them are the main characters, there's one that stands out because it's their journey. So the first book is Quincy's journey. Yep. And the reason it was important for me to do that is because I didn't want to be pigeonholed as, like if you come out with the first book focusing on the African American's journey, we expect that. We expect an African American to write about, to feature this. And so even though, Fee is my favorite character,
I'm not going to even tell you how much I cried in Laws of Annihilation in his scene.
Okay.
I'm not even... That broke something in me, and at the same time made me want to stand up like, okay, I see you. Right. But continue. We'll get there.
So, so and they're all different. So the premise for those that don't know the series, it's basically, I merge all of my disciplines, all of my talents.
Mhm.
So as an author, I draw a lot from my first love, being an actor and being a storyteller, being movies, television. So Laws of Depravity basically is my version of the movie Seven.
Oh.
So
Oh.
so think about this. You have a salt and pepper team, one
Yes.
white, one black. I threw in a female, but in general, you have that. So you had Morgan Freeman, Brad Pitt, and in my books, the premise is these two guys are considered the closers in all of New York, and they only investigate high-profile serial killings. The FBI agent in the first book is introduced as someone who's also tailing the same killer because this killer has been killing for 30 years. So she's been on him and it brings them all together. So the first book is based on that. The second book, which is now we get into Fee's journey. Well, Fee's father is the official godfather or was the official godfather of Harlem. He was an old gangster, ruthless, who did some shit. He's now a legitimate businessman, but he did some stuff that was so foul back in the day, it comes back to haunt him. And that's what and it cost him. And now Fee, and it's costing Fee as well. So Fee investigates that. The third book, Laws of Annihilation, now this is going to be Janet Macklin. Macklin is the Jewish FBI agent. She's just embracing a deeper understanding of her Jewish roots and faith because she's been pretty lax on it. The case makes her examine because someone is killing the Jewish rabbis, and so that becomes her journey. So each one is intimately tied to one of their journeys, and that journey they will either make that this case will either make or break them. So that's the premise of all of the series for those that haven't read it. So now Laws of Wrath, Fee's journey, his father. So now you got the Godfather of Harlem. You've got a little bit of now also in Laws of Wrath. There is a character that's introduced in Laws of Depravity, and it's only in 5 pages, actually like 2 or 3 pages. His nickname is the African, and the African is the right-hand man. He's the henchman for Fee's father. He's whatever if Fee's father says go kill this guy. So the African basically is the black. 'Cause I always, again, drawing on books. The Godfather is my favorite film. I always wanted to know the Luca Brasi story. So Luca Brasi was the one. Luca Brasi Sleeps with the Fishes. He was the one that did all of Marlon Brando's bidding. So the African is that for me. He does whatever Fee's father. So it's important to remember this character because he's introduced in book 1, and like I said, just in 2 pages, real short. In Laws of Wrath, he has a much more integral part, and you see him you see who he is. That character, I fell in love with so much that I decided to do a departure book. That's what book 4 is, Laws of Solomon, because the African's name is Solomon. And so it's going to be, and you're going to get his whole origin story of what made him to be as bad as he is and how ruthless. And that book is loosely my version of Man on Fire with Denzel Washington, because he encounters, as bad as he encounters a little boy in danger, and he has to make a decision and in protecting the boy, and he does some he does some fucked up shit. I mean, beautiful fucked up shit, like the kind of fucked up shit we like.
Oh
He
my
does some.
God.
So that's what. So the fourth book is Laws of Solomon, based on him, and then book five. I'm not gonna spoil it, but there's a character in book five. By the time you get to book five, you've been wondering what happened to a specific character, and they come back and there is someone really, really fucked up, but you never know it. See?
You
Yeah.
cannot do this to me. You cannot do this to me.
I'll DM you and tell you.
Okay. Because I'm sitting here like, wait a minute. Okay. All right. So Detective Fee Freeman.
Right.
Investigation becomes
And
deeply.
Fee, and by the way, Fee is a nickname, because he was a football player. Before he was a cop, he was a safety for the Giants. He was a badass safety. And from the time he was a kid, they used to call him Phenomenal Freeman. And then over time, then they started calling him Phenomenal. Then they started just calling him Fee. So it's Phee. So that's where his nickname. So that's where his name comes, because his last name is Freeman.
His investigation becomes deeply personal with his siblings' murder.
Right.
Why was it important to intertwine family identity and professional duty?
Because it's a book about forgiveness. And you have to realize in the first book, remember, he was unforgiving to his brother because his brother was gay.
Yeah.
And he rejected his brother on the most brutal of terms.
Yeah.
So now he has to, and again, it's a different kind of love story, because book two, although Fee has his thing with his woman, but the major part of that love story is you realize how much Fee fell in love with his brother.
Yeah.
So the whole story is about him finding, because in the Black community, homosexuality is, such a, taboo thing. And we're very like macho. We're like, yo, that's.
Yeah.
So Fee's father, who's old school, rejected his own son.
Yeah.
Fee rejected his own brother. So the reason it was so important to have this personal thing, because in the course of the investigation, again, remember what I keep saying, these investigations either make you or break you. These investigations deliver you to either the devils of your soul or the angels of your soul. And so Fee going through this investigation, and it's a horrific investigation, but through it, he finds his heart and his soul, and that's why the end is so emotional, which is really important to me, because I want to occupy the space that you can cry during reading a thriller.
Yes.
You can be touched. You can have a great tender love story and have this. You can have it all. And so the end of Wrath is very, very emotional, and but it's also about a man falling because his brother used to be his hero when he was a kid.
Yeah.
So before he found out that his brother was gay, he idolized his brother. So he was in love with his brother as a hero. And then he hated him for years. And then what you end up with is him falling through the course of this investigation. So that's why it was important to blend the family and the investigation so much.
The uneasy alliance with a brilliant but unstable cult leader creates more of a morally gray zone. What does that dynamic say about desperation and justice?
Well, I think it says more about what we're willing to believe and what we're willing to follow. And so that was a really dark book for me, and a dark subject, I should say. I always try to balance out the books, but it was a dark subject for me because it dealt with some stuff that I am afraid of. And like that subject matter, and I'm not going to spoil it for people that haven't, but that subject matter scared me. And the best I could do was literally there's a line in there where Fee says to Quincy, this shit is freaking me out. Like, he's talking about the investigation. That was from me. Like, I had to, because I was doing some research and it was freaking me out. Seriously. I was like,
Mm,
and so I had to voice it. And so I just chose to voice it through my character. So Fee, there's just this cool point where they're talking, Fee and Quincy
yeah.
are doing some investigating, and Fee just goes, yo, man, I gotta tell you, this shit is freaking me out. That was my voice. That was me. That was, and so but the thing about it is, you think about what her followers were willing to do, but everything ultimately, to a degree, is a cult.
Mm,
Religion is a cult because it's based on choice. It's based on following something seen and unseen. Most of the times, unseen.
mhm.
So this is what these people chose to believe. I had to, again, back to the subject matter, not my thing, but I wanted to write it respectfully.
Mm,
Wanted to, like, I didn't make, didn't want to make them into caricatures. I wanted them to be real, because that's going to freak you out even more, and that's
yeah.
going to give you. And so, yeah, she was brilliant, and I wanted to have a great female villain,
Hmm.
because that was important to me. And so now in that book, you have three very strong women.
Yeah.
You've got Bee's woman, Brenda. You've got Macklin, and you've got Zivik. That was important to me, to have like these three dynamic, very diverse, very different women.
Yeah.
But you have that.
I love that. The book balances procedural crime storytelling with emotional character depth. How do you ensure that we as readers stay invested in both?
Well, I think if you, again, like I said, I think if you set up your character, you set up stakes.
Mm,
I think if the stakes keep getting higher, I think you stay invested. And so again, I have to just, not only that, and this, what's really important is, this is when you're writing thrillers, you have to stay ahead of your audience.
mm,
If your audience gets ahead of you, you're done. So that's why my books have so many twists and turns, because so even if you think you know what's going to happen, I might give you a little. You're like, yeah, I know that, and you go, oh shit, I didn't know that was going to happen, and that's how you keep it invested. Yeah.
okay. You explore good and evil as fluid, not fixed. Do you believe most people live somewhere in that gray middle?
That's what these books are definitely all about. So we got to get ready to wrap up. So let's jump to Annihilation,
All right.
because I got yeah. So
All right.
we got to. So do you? I know this is yours. So do you? I just want to make sure you have enough time to ask your important questions on this one.
All right. So,
We've been
Laws of
going at it.
Annihilation,
Okay.
my baby. This book tackles racial tension between Black and Jewish communities,
Mhm.
sometimes rarely explored in, crime fiction. What made you decide to step into this space, especially with the racial tension that you used in this book?
Well, I mean, I lived in New York during the time of all that turmoil when the young kid was chased down and killed by a car because a Jewish mob chased that's true. I
Mhm.
lived in New York at a time when Bernard Getz got on a train and shot some black kids because he was in fear of his life. We've all lived through the Trayvon Martin. So these are very real, but that the between certain areas in Brooklyn and various parts, there were these some very tragic things that happened, and so I
Mhm.
wanted to capture that, and I wanted to, because at the end of the day, it is we're at risk. Here's the thing: we're not even the real enemy. I put a third enemy.
Mhm.
We're so busy attacking each other that we're not
Mhm.
even watching. So you know what it's like? It's like two birds, two birds fighting, and a snake waits for one of them to be injured, and he's got a free meal.
Mm.
We're so busy fighting. The birds are the same. Ultimately, the snake is different.
Yeah.
But we fight so much that we're not aware of the enemy. So that was really important to me, and that's where that came from.
I have 3 questions and then we're done. All right. Now,
take your time. I know you wrote a lot of notes.
I did, and yeah. So in feed scene, this was a emotional scene.
You said in fees scene?
I mean, in is it fee? The hanging fruit scene. Let's put it like that.
Oh, Shaka.
Shaka. All right. The hanging fruit scene and dealing with the white nationalists. That was a very intense scene, but at the same time, it was a very proud scene because he never begged, he never cried, and he never forgot who he was.
Right.
How emotional was that for you to write as a Black man and as a Black individual in America?
Again, there are, I think, seminal scenes that a writer never forgets, or I would say scenes, chapters and sections. Yeah. That is that one cost me a lot. That was extremely emotional, and I needed him to be a hero even in the face of death. And I wanted not only a hero, but I mean, like, he fucked some of them up.
Yes, he did.
And I don't mean that physically. I mean, physically he got in some of this stuff, but I'm saying, but psychologically, because he was proud and because he knew he did such things and he went out in such a way. So how can you feel for this guy, and it's a horrible, horrible scene. But if you also, when you read it, it's one of the most beautifully written chapters as well. And that's a lot of times I do that. Like the more horrific something is, the more almost lyrical the writing becomes, because I'm trying to. But when he looks at them, that and the strange fruit of it all, like, so right. So when you think of the imagery of this and how famous that thing is, that was important to me. So yes, it was extremely emotional for me.
I want to read this to you. This is what I wrote in that chapter. I said, watching it unfold takes me to my ancestors and slavery, and how his pen was speaking truth to power, and how it is relevant now that we stand up as Black people. I have never been so proud to say that this man stood up for us.
Yeah. That became his legacy. So it was as important as how he lived. How he died was as important as how he lived, but he stayed true in death to how he lived, and that was important to me. Yeah.
Okay, next question, and then I have one more, and then we're out. Okay, so how do you balance real world social trauma with fictional storytelling without exploiting real pain?
Well, again, I think if you're honest, and if you can tell when something's exploitative. You can tell when you're writing something just for likes. And I really don't come from that place.
Yeah.
So I think, again, when it's costing you, and you can tell when it costs. And I think that chapter is that chapter cost me. I think that's why you asked the question. I think the cost was there. I think every word you're seeing, there's a Black man in pain writing about a Black character in pain.
Yeah.
And he's trying to use that pain throughout the book to show how we all need to, because we're heading in this crazy place and we don't even know who the enemy is, and we're attacking each other. And if we don't shift that, we're all headed. And think about it, that was personified with the 2 prisoners. Okay. So you have an African-American man who was locked in a cell with a Jewish guy, and they hated each other. They had genuine reason to hate each other. And we took them on a journey throughout. So they became a microcosm of the entire book. And so there were some things there. And again, some of the worst things that happened to them are some of the most lyrical. So that's important.
Last question. What book signings are you doing? Like, are you going to be signing books? When does Laws of Solomon come out? And
So Laws of Solomon comes out September 8th. It's pre-sales are now. It's ready for pre-orders, and of course, I'll tell the reader that's always very important to us. And the reason it's important is because you give authors power, because publishers start getting a sense of how big a book is going to be by the preliminary stuff. So then they start printing more, they start pushing more. So when you find voices, not just mine, when you find voices that you like, it is very important to jump on board and be supportive of those voices, because you're now creating a space for a writer. Otherwise, they kind of go away, because most authors can't afford to do this. So when you find someone that you really like, you want to get behind them, you want to find as many ways of supporting them. I have a newsletter that we're doing. I mean, all my socials are Instagram, Eriq La Salle. I've just got the blue check, so it's that, because sometimes there are a lot of imposters. But it's finding how. So I invite people to do that in a week or so. We're going to have our website up, which will be IamEriqLaSalle.com. That's going to have everything. That's going to have the listings for all book signings. Since obviously September seems far away, but when you're in the book world, it's not like we are grinding right now. We're doing publicity stuff. We're doing because you have to do this, because this is the important part. This is getting people involved, and people, I did a podcast last week or week before, and people were doing pre-sales, and all of a sudden, my agent was like, okay, wow, it's all, like they have the metrics to see engagement, and they were able to go, oh, like that mattered, that podcast mattered. So I just encourage people to do it. So it comes out September 8th, and I'm going to be doing I'm doing a 5-city tour.
Are you coming to Chicago?
That would be one of them. The majors. Are you in Chicago?
Yes.
Oh, no. We'll, so, and then, and so this is what I'm going to, what we're going to do. We get the ARCs, the advanced reader copies. So we already have them digitally. We get the hard covers in about a month. So I'm going to send you one. I'm going to send you one. And we might send, I don't know if you have favorite followers or what, we might send a couple of digitals out. We like to, again, we're planting seeds. I don't have it all worked out, but I know I can tell you that I'm going to get you I appreciate your support. And like I said, you're the kind of person I do write for. The level of depth and intelligence that you have on these things. But like I said, the one thing that we will always push for is for people, supporting. So right now, I guess it's best to follow me for the next week or so, Instagram, Eriq La Salle. But then in a week or so, once we have the website up, the cool thing about the website, we'll talk, like I'm going to be doing a whole series just on, like, this month, I'm just going to be talking about writing. Next month, I might be talking about acting. The following month, I might be talking about directing. And so we're going to be doing these cool series on the web. So if you really want to know what's happening and how to follow and where I'm going to be and all of that. And like I said, I always like to give back. So like with the last podcast that I did with Danny Reese has been a big fan. And she's just been in my corner, like she's been ride or die, and she and her partner Kim, they've just been ride or die, and we gave, we're sending them art. She gave away 3 books of the series. Like, so we're always trying to find ways, and I appreciate people like you that's like, yo, listen, I want you to come on. I want you to do this. So that's where we are. But so like I said, in about a week or two, they'll be able to follow everything because everything will be in one place. All my socials, what's happening if I'm getting ready to do a podcast, if I'm getting ready to go to another city, if I'm getting ready to do a guest appearance. I've got some stuff for all the people in LA, like I'm doing something in Leimert Park in about 2 weeks. So you'll be able to find all of that information there and follow. But as much as the one thing I will say is, do not underestimate the power of like pre-ordering, because it makes the publisher go, oh wow, hold on, like what, guys, we need to do more here. We need to do more here because this is already being noticed. So that's the power that you and your listeners and fellow readers have. So I humbly come before you with that.
So before I do your outro, I just want to put a bug in your ear. The ICU literary event in Detroit will be, because Brandon Massey was there last year, and I think next year they're doing it. And I know that if they reach out to you, that might be a good one, because it's ICU literary book event, and the Black Writers Weekend is happening this year in Atlanta. It's a big event that has all Black writers and awards.
What time of year?
That will be in August.
Okay, that's actually a really good time because I'm coming out the next month. So I know we're doing a lot of stuff around that. I'll be in New York doing some stuff. And I think the 5 major cities will be, LA, Chicago, Atlanta, New York.
That's a big event.
Okay.
That's a big event. I will actually ask the CEO to reach out to your team to get in contact with you, same with the ICU event. And I want to plug my own event that is in 2027. It's the Hornet Masquerade Fantasy Ball. Is genres of thriller, psychological, horror, anime, paranormal, romantasy, and fantasy. And it's in 75 authors, and it'll be in Savannah, Georgia. So,
really?
And that's October of 2027.
Okay.
And I will also
we're gonna be keep me posted, because I love this stuff. I love going to book festivals, and I love these podcasts, talking one-on-one. I love this. So definitely.
Okay, so I'm gonna do your outro, and then we're gonna get the hell out of here. All right.
We put it in. We almost went 2 hours. We put it in. I don't. You're like, it'll be about 40 minutes.
I also said if the conversation flows.
And I was with it. I'm with it. So we're good. We got some good stuff, man. I love this. Seriously, you did. And by the way, you did a fantastic job.
Oh, thank you.
I was just a little mad. I don't know why she didn't reach out to. I don't know. When did you read Laws of Annihilation?
It was a while. Like,
right, that's what I'm saying. Like, I was like, why didn't she reach out? So anyway, I'm glad you did. All right, do your outro.
So, Eriq, thank you for sharing not just your work, but your perspective, your experience, and your truth through storytelling. Your work across acting, directing, and literature continues to push conversations forward and challenge how we understand humanity, power, morality, and justice. To everyone on here, I just want you to understand, make sure you check out the Martyr Maker series and stay tuned for the Laws of Solomon. I'm stoked. So support Black storytellers, support layered storytelling, support stories that make you think. So I'm your host, Storm, and as I always stay love, stay loud, and stay Black on motherfucking purpose. And for the winner of the books, it is A.A. Lewis. A.A. Lewis, I will be sending you on your information to his team so you can get your books.
You know what, Storm? Give another name too.
Another name? Okay.
You get two winners. How about
All right. Let me see here. The next winner is Simply Red. Simply Red, make sure you send me your email and your information so I can send it over. All right.
There we go. That's how we're going to do it. And I'll hit you and let you know when I'm sending you the art, but you'll definitely get it before everybody else does. All right?
I will send this video to your team so they can have clips that you can have.
Right on. Appreciate you, sister.
No problem. Bye, y'all.